There are about 1 million driving aids in F125, and with so many new drivers coming into the game, I've seen so many questions about them and which driving aids should I have on, what should I have off, and if I do have them on, are they making me slower? Well, fear not, I have conducted an experiment by testing nearly all of the driving aids in F125 to see if they're actually slower than running with all the aids off, and yeah, I've got some results. They're kind of interesting. Let's have a look. So, to quickly go over the plan and the experiment I was going to do, I conducted a bunch of laps at Albert Park to try and work out how much time I would lose by using each of the driving aids in F125. I was using Oscar Piastri on equal performance in time trial mode. I actually tried a bit of non-time trial as well. I tried like a Haas on a hard tire in like a practice session of a Grand Prix just to see if there was a huge difference, but I found the results fairly similar to time trial mode apart from being like 3 seconds a lap slower. I was also using the baseline default setup as that's what most people who are playing this game are using. I actually tried an Esports setup just for fun to see what it would do. I was quite surprised as well, but I'll get to that a little bit later. I'm also doing this all on a wheel. If you use a controller, a lot of these driving aids are going to be a lot more useful as you have a lot less control over your throttle and your braking inputs. So it's going to be slightly different for controller, and I would encourage you to use more driving aids if you're using a controller. Anyway, very quickly, let's go through all the driving aid options in F125. Traction control, anti-lock brakes, and automatic gears are the ones that I tested. We also have 2 driving aids that I did not test. We have both steering assist and braking assist. Steering assist basically has the game steer for you. You want to have this off. You want to do the steering yourself. And braking assist is the same. Basically, with braking assist on, the game is going to do the braking for you at differing levels. You can turn this on if you keep forgetting to brake. But I think it's a fair expectation of the majority of like able-bodied people playing this game to turn this off and brake yourself. So I picked Albert Park to do this test because it's a really fun lap to hot lap, and I was doing lots of laps here to test, and I can also do the most accurate lap times one after another to really kind of benchmark them. It is a fairly high-speed track though. There are only really 4 low-speed corners on this track: turn 3, turn 4, the right-hander at the end of the back straight, and the second last corner where you're really getting like wheel spin and it's a heavy stop. So a lot of the issues that I find with these driving aids will be larger if you go to a track like Monaco, for example, where you have a lot of slow speed acceleration zones, or even like Bahrain or something. So it might be more of a gap at those tracks. So to start the experiment, I did a fast-ish, as fast as I could, lap on the baseline set with no driving aids, just to see what I can do. My time was a 1:17.359. I also ended up doing another lap after all of my testing was completed, just to see if I improved a lot. I did, so I ended up with a 1:17.228. I think you can average these times together, which is what I did. So with that, my no driving aids lap time is a 1:17.293. Now, driving Albert Park with no driving aids, I found I was getting a lot of wheel spin out of the slow corners I mentioned earlier, but not as big an amount as I thought or that I've received on previous games. And it was easily manageable as long as I kind of progressively put the throttle on and didn't just go straight to 100%. It was quite easy to manage the wheel spin. My first test was with traction control though. Traction control, in case you're not aware, is focused around the rear wheels as you're using the throttle and putting the power down. TC will basically, it can tell when you're starting to wheel spin and will automatically stop, like applying throttle to stop the wheel spin. There are 2 settings in F125. Medium setting only kicks in when you're like completely about to crash, and the full setting stops all wheel spin in the car. So they handle very differently in the game, I found. With medium traction control, I found that the TC, yeah, as I said before, it doesn't do a lot until you're like really, really sideways. And I also found that I automatically was doing the kind of same throttle control that I was doing with no driving aids and just not engaging the traction control. The lap time I did was a 1:17.413, which is just over a tenth slower, but I reckon there is a little bit more time in it if I kind of pushed a little bit harder. So this was my first surprise I found in testing. I actually found medium traction control wasn't very invasive, and I could do basically the same lap times that I could do with no driving aids. I then tried medium traction control and tried to like just full mash the throttle just to see what it would do. And I ended up losing a lot more time through the final corners where the throttle matters and I was getting like a little bit sideways. When you start losing traction, the TC will just like stop you from dying, but it's not very fast. But I got a 1 minute 17.423, which is only slightly slower again. So medium traction control was actually kind of okay. I honestly think like it's not a bad idea to use medium traction control. If you drive the car well enough, you actually won't notice, like the TC won't ever kick in, but it's always kind of there in the background just to stop you from completely crashing the car. And I think if you're learning to drive with no traction control, but you find that you're still crashing every 10 laps or so, try medium traction control. I feel like it's a good middle ground. It'll let you get a bit more freedom with your throttle applications, but it'll stop you from just completely losing it. Next up, I tried full traction control, and full traction control is great because it requires no throttle control. You just hold the pedal down and turn the wheel, and it automatically takes power away from the rear wheels as you turn to stop wheel spin. It's very easy to drive, but it is also slow. You can just see the time disappearing through turns 3 and 4. I ended up with a 1:17.906, which is just over 6/10 slower than using no traction control. The next test I did was with anti-lock brakes. Anti-lock is basically what it says. It stops the brakes from locking up. You can hit the brakes as hard as you can and the game will basically take away braking performance and stop the wheels from locking up. I found it really hard mentally to like mash the brake pedal 100% straight away. But I found that using ABS, the wheels of course did not lock. I did feel like I was honestly losing some braking performance with ABS at the heavy stops. So at turn 3 and at the end of the back straight, it wasn't like a huge amount of performance I was losing, but I felt like I was braking at the same marker that I was with no driving aids, and I was just running a little bit deeper into the corners with ABS on. I ended up with a 1:17.607, which is just over 0.3 slower than using no driving aids. I think braking is fairly easy in F1 25, and it's a good challenge and thing to learn, so I recommend running with ABS off. But if you are struggling, this aid doesn't remove a lot of performance. It was only 0.3 for me, so you can definitely use it. My next test was with automatic gears. I wanted to see if the game was going to like shift at weird points or something, or slow down shifts. And to my surprise, it kind of didn't. It surprisingly felt okay, and I did a 1 minute 17.351, which is about 0.5 off my no driving aids time. I found I had a lot less control over the gears with automatic kind of gearbox. You can't short shift to kind of manage wheel spin out of corners. And you also can't use engine braking, you can't like downshift super hard, so I definitely felt a lot more comfortable going back to manual gears, but the automatic setting wasn't super slow. My final test wasn't actually with a driving aid, it was just using an esports setup because I saw it and I was like, might as well. So I borrowed a setup off the fastest driver on the leaderboard. I kind of wanted to see if it would make a difference, and to my surprise, it did make a difference. I did a 1:16.739. which is over 0.5 seconds faster than the baseline setup. So take that information how you want. Setups make a surprising amount of difference in this game. I found over 0.5 seconds. So my final findings from this little experiment is that if we ignore the esports setup lap, no driving aids is the fastest way to play, followed by automatic gears and medium traction control, which are about 0.1 second slower. Then it's about 0.3 slower for anti-lock brakes and 0.6 slower for full traction control. What this means is what I've kind of said previously on this channel, and that's to race the driving aids that give you the most enjoyment. Because there's surprisingly not a gigantic difference between them. Like, if you're wanting to race competitively online in this game, then you're gonna want to race with no driving aids. Likewise, if you just enjoy the challenge of pushing yourself and kind of treating it like Dark Souls or something, setting a challenge and overcoming it, definitely run with no driving aids, and you'll find it more challenging but more rewarding. If you're struggling to learn to run with no driving aids, medium traction control is a great stepping stone though. And if you want to use all the driving aids, kind of go for it. Whatever's the most fun experience, you don't end up losing that much time. I reckon that you can still win on 110 difficulty with all the driving aids on if you like lock in hard enough. So yeah, I was pretty surprised. Not a huge difference between them. Let us know in the comments if you're trying racing with no driving aids for the first time this year, or if you're chilling on medium TC, or what your settings are. I'd love to see them. Also, if you're enjoying F125, I've been playing so much of it the last week. It's been really, really good. If you liked the video, you can leave a like, and you can also subscribe to Overtake for more sim racing and racing game videos. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.